So let us start with today's session. In today's session, we will learn about a little bit about objects, not the object-oriented programming, all the concepts, just to fixate our idea onto objects and how Python uses objects, and few keywords which are used to detect objects and what are the things inside objects, things like that. And then also we will see about how to take input. There was a question yesterday, and how do we take input from user. And also we'll look at file operations. We'll just try to open a file and try to read it. And this session is going to be like one of the building blocks for the project that we are going to do. Okay, once we do the project, automatically all the concepts will be covered, and we will also be happy and contented about learning the whole thing. Okay, so by maybe by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, actual Python concepts will be almost over, and then we will maybe we will define a problem statement, and then we will try to write some requirements, and try to write some block diagrams, and try to understand how do we build a small software or a small program or a small project. Okay, how it happens in the industry, and it will help you to visualize the software. So usually it is really difficult to jump into the code and start reading the code and imagine how the system is built. We always should go from a top-down approach. That means we should know what is the intent of that project or code, and then split into different parts, and then iterate through the parts and then understand. That is the best way to understand. So otherwise it's really difficult to understand. Okay, so yesterday we saw about functions, and we also had a exercise. And then I just wanted to let you know about one more concept that is used in functions. And also so in C++, there are two ways to pass parameters into the functions. That is called as pass by reference and pass by value. Pass by value in the sense, say I have a function, it is taking a parameter. Pass by value is like the while during execution, what happens is that object or that parameter is given a new memory location. All the contents of that particular object is just given a new location. Say for example, we are passing this object or this parameter, and pass by value is nothing but we are going to create a new memory in the RAM, and then we are going to work on that. So what happens is, if you change the values of this object, so this won't get affected because the memory location is fresh and new here. Okay, so that is about pass by value. And pass by reference is nothing but we are instead of passing the value, what we do is we pass the address of that. So if I pass a parameter by reference, so what happens is I'm going to pass send its address instead of actual parameter. So there are two items involved here. The actual parameter, say x is equal to y. Actually, there are to store x, you need a memory location. So that memory location itself has an address. So there are two parts in whenever we store something. Say x is equal to 4. So 4 is actual value stored here in this memory location, and also this memory location itself has an address. Okay, so that is a quite a simple concept. So when we try to pass by reference, what happens is I'm instead of passing the whole parameter, I'm just passing the address. So the idea here is, yeah, here if you have a big object, or if you are calling function again and again, or your project is memory sensitive, and there are instances where actually the initial parameter that is passed should be changed. In such conditions, we pass by yeah, value, sorry, pass by reference, because I don't want to create new memory location and waste the memory. So in cases where we do not worry much about the memory and things like that, we can pass it by reference. In Python, it is always by reference. Actually, it is a little bit complicated in Python internally, but for user it is very simple. So if the say for example, I will show you a program, um, for pass by reference and pass by value. Okay. Okay, let us try to experiment. So uh, I have a small function here called as modify list, and it is taking a parameter called as a parameter which is a list. Okay, so I will send, also have a global parameter here, and I'm going to pass this value to this function. It's very simple. So what I'm going trying to do is I'm going to append, or I'm going to modify this list and see what is happening. Okay, and also let us take another data type which is immutable. That means it's a constant like tuples, or strings are immutable, and even tuples are immutable. So how the Python reacts, or Python behaves in two different kinds of data types, that is immutable and mutable. Okay, so we are doing the same thing. Instead of lists, we are just using tuples, and let us try to understand what is happening. Okay. So once I execute it, so this is just a line, just for understanding. Okay, so inside modified list, let us see inside modified list. So I'm printing the value here inside modified list, and I'm printing the parameter itself. So it is initially, it was initially, what I'm passing here is actually welcome to bootcamp. Okay, so these are strings separated by comma, and it's a list. So I'm passing this into this function. So I'm trying to modify the global list here. Okay, so let me try to modify um, the incoming list instead of global list. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm trying to modify the incoming list, which is actually global scope, as a global scope list as a parameter, and I'm trying to append something here. So what is happening is actually this is getting modified. Okay, why is it? Because so I'm printing the global scope here. I'm trying to check whether this is modified. So actually that is getting modified. Okay, that means we are passing it by reference. That means when I assign it here, it is actually like this. So this was global parameter, and this was a parameter inside the function, and since it is pointing the same memory location, if I modify this, this gets automatically modified. Okay. So that is how the Python works for lists. The lists are nothing but or mutable data types. I just mutable data types. Okay, so for mutable data types, it works like this. So let us check the same data, but I'm putting it in the tuple. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the same thing. I'm just passing the global scope tuple here, and I'm trying to modify the incoming tuple. That means tuple cannot be modified. I can change its name, or its address. Okay, so if I try to change the whole thing, let us see what is happening. So I passed it here, and inside the function it is incoming tuple. Um, so it's virtual bootcamp. Okay, I am forming a new tuple here and assigning to the same object. Okay, so let us see if this is getting affected. Okay, so when I'm trying to print the same thing again in the ending, so it is not getting affected. We have two different behaviors with the same data but different data types. So that means whenever you pass mutable objects, it gets passed by reference, and whenever you pass a immutable object, it gets passed by value. Actually, internally, just remember this. Actually, this may not be 100% correct in for an expert, because in Python, actually there are no parameters itself. They are just names and it gets assigned. So that's a internal implementation of Python. As a user, as a programmer, it doesn't matter. So just remember that, okay, immutable data types get a copy like this when you pass it to function like this, but for mutable data types it is passed by reference. So just remember that. In case if you want to read more about it and understand how Python implements internally, this is the reference, which is docs from Python organization itself. Okay, so that is about functions and parameters. So let us get to objects. Okay, so whenever we say object-oriented programming or objects, what an object means is in terms of programming, it is just certain attributes and certain operations. Okay, but in real world, there are objects and there are properties of that object, such as color, size, volume, and things like that. The operations are that we do on top of that. For example, if you have a machine, the all the parts, if you just pluck it out, those are all the attributes, and the operations that you're doing, such as starting the machine or switching off the machine and operating it, that is nothing but operations. So object, if you try to put it on the code, that means it has operations as well as attributes. Yesterday we saw that we pass a function, and in order to look at what are the types of operation and what are the types of parameters that are inside a module, that is a file, we just did a dir, and we just put that we imported that file, and we saw output of dir. It gave all the global variables, that means the attributes, and it also gave operations, that means the functions that were defined. So these functions are nothing not, called as methods. These variables are called as attributes. So that is about simply about objects. So why do we need to create objects is because we are trying to match the real world objects into the code. So that becomes easier for anyone to write code, and also to separate functionalities. For example, if I don't have objects, I can just write methods such as apply break, release break, and all these things. What if I pass argument such as instead of car, I'll just pass maybe a parameter called as an apple. So when I pass parameters such as an apple, so apply brake doesn't apply to it. Apply clutch, it doesn't make sense. So it is necessary to contain operations and attributes to a particular set. So to particular object and its set. Okay. So that is why we do the object oriented programming, or we think of real words in terms of objects. Okay. So there are other advantages, such as you can apply different ideologies about operating systems, not operating systems, like object oriented programming things, such as inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, and stuff like that. That is not required in this session. We will come to that. So that is about briefly about objects. Okay, so why do we need to learn about objects is because everything is in that is in Python is object. That means integer that we defined before is an object. The lists and all these things that we saw already, that these are all objects. And even file is an object. Even whatever, even the map, all these things are object. Okay, so let us just try and see in the interpreter, Python interpreter, and try to see. Okay, so I'll just maximize this. Okay, so a is equal to 10. This is an integer. Okay, so dir is a keyword which is actually a global function inside the inside Python, and this takes an argument. Argument should be an object. So see, a is an object actually, but so far we were thinking that it's simply integer, but there are different so all the all the strings that you are seeing which are having double underscores, that means that is internal to that object. That means usually programmers do not mess with these attributes or these functions. Okay, uh, without a double underscore, these functions we can easily use it. So let me actually I do not know anything about the 2 bytes. So in order to find out what 2 bytes do, it is simple. So a is an object. Now a dot 2 bytes, and just call function. Okay, so it says, okay, you need length. Okay, so let us try to byte order. Okay, now it is telling uh, it needs certain way. So in order, so in case you do not know about anything about this function, either you can Google. In case you do not know anything about Google, what you sorry, you do not get anything from the you do not have access to internet, what you can do is you can look at a dot 2 bytes, and let us see what it does. So okay, bytes. Okay, and then let us look at okay. So what I'm doing is, actually this is also an object, because it's a function inside inside this is an integer, and that integer is nothing but an object in Python. Okay, so when I do dir, it lists all the functionality and as well as the parameters or attributes, and then I'm trying to access, which I don't know actually, I never use 2 bytes. So in order to learn about 2 bytes, so what I'm trying to do is, okay, so I tried to use it in a raw format, just using braces, and it gave me an error. This is called as traceback. We will learn about this. So it is telling that, okay, but it requires some kind of argument. Okay, so let us see what it means. So what I am doing is, I am accessing the doc string of this bytes. So yesterday we saw where's my function? Asterisk functions variable with assignment reports with functions. Okay, yesterday we wrote something like this. We wrote something in triple quotes below the function definition. So this is called as docstring. So yesterday we discussed that is called as a docstring. So that is nothing but I'm trying to access that is written here. Okay, so usually most of the functions that is written in Python will have docstring. Okay, so that is how we try to find out what it does, and how it works. Okay, so if you look at look up 2 bytes. Okay, so you get the same thing. So what shall I do? Okay. 2 bytes Python 3. Okay, so in order to learn, so this is how you need to find out 2 bytes. Okay, into 2 bytes. So it takes return an array of bytes, okay, representing an integer. Okay, byte order. Okay, let us take a byte order, and byte order is position 2. Say byte order is okay. There is in a sense uh, we were discussing in the first class that there are different architectures which are using different kind of representation of data. If you are reading from right to left, it is one, and left to right, it is a different architecture. And so how the bits or bytes are organized inside the RAM or inside CPU. So there are two ways. One is little endian and one is big endian. That you can read more about that. So here we need to give big. Okay. So now I am able to I just figured out which I figured out to use how to use unknown function, which is how to use it. Okay, so this is how you kind of intuitively find out things inside an object. So that is about integer. So you can do this for anything else. For so in order to find out, say in a so you have a big piece of code, and you have some variable, and you want to find out what kind of variable it is, what kind of object it is. It is simply you just type and say that variable. It will say, okay, this is class int. Class is nothing but it's a blueprint of an object. It's like, okay, now this is a blueprint of a car. That means if I want to create a car, what I do is I just say, okay, just create this, create this, in the sense I go to I need to carve out as that much memory that a car consumes, and return a and give a handle, or return a parameter, or return an variable for that. Okay, so that is how an object gets created. So that is called as a class. So this is not actually a car. This is just a blueprint of the car. So in order to create objects, we need to have a blueprint. So that blueprint is called as class in Python. Even in C++, it's called as class. Okay, object is a, just remember that object is a living living memory inside the RAM. Class is just text, which is like which tells the compiler to uh, to form to form an idea about how big is the object, and things like that, and then pass it on to the interpreter, or in the runtime environment. It can we can create a new object, and when that object is created, it is created that from that blueprint, and it assigns that much memory. And you can create any number of objects having single class. Okay, so you can create any number of cars in this example. Okay, so that is about objects and class. And you can find out for any other thing. Okay, even even for list you can find out. Yesterday we saw, so even for dictionaries it's a class inside. So all these are objects. So that is about little bit idea about objects. And in order to see where it resides, actually yesterday we saw about this. So where it resides inside the Python virtual machine. So this is not the actual address from the RAM. It is address that is inside the Python virtual machine. So then it gets this gets translated into the address inside the RAM. So that is a job of Python interpreter that we don't have to worry. So whenever we are working on Python, we should always remember that we are talking to the Python interpreter. We are not talking to RAM directly. Okay, so that is about dir. And dir lists all the functionality. Dir lists actually the blueprint of the object. That is nothing but this. So it gives in a list. ID gives us where it resides, and the type gives us an idea about what kind of object it is. Actually, we can create our own classes. And if I create our own classes, the type when we initialize that variable, and when we do class, sorry, when we do type of that variable, it will give class and your class name, something like, okay, my class. Okay, so that is about objects and how to visualize objects inside the when we are programming. Okay, so that is a simple concept. So that was required to in order to mm, take inputs, as well as we'll learn about file operations. So this was the base for to understand them. Okay, so that was about objects. So any questions here in the in objects?
No, Digant, I'm good with it.
Okay, okay, great. That was a simple concept. So okay, let us move to getting inputs from terminal.
So Digant, here one thing. So basically, whatever that dir, that I don't know if it is called directory or it is dir. I'll just clarify that one. So what does that dir means? Is it
Dir is actually a keyword. Dir means directory. It's a shortcut for directory. Directory in the
okay?
sense,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Look up.
so which means, suppose we've defined a as an integer,
Uh-huh.
and directory of a particular object, that's like an integer object. So what all can be performed
Yeah.
on this particular object is the ones which are mentioned here, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. What are all the actions that we perform, and also what are all the attributes, that what are the parts.
Okay. So these will internally take again furthermore arguments and give out the results whatever you
Right, right.
needed.
Operations might or might not take parameters. Some take might take parameters. Some may not be taking parameters.
All right.
They are
Okay.
just functions inside.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And also some can be attributes. Attributes in the sense of just maybe bit length is not a function. It could be a just a not parameter, attribute.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just to give the descriptive values of a
Right,
particular.
right, correct. So we do not usually use double underscores. That means, do not touch this. That is internal to Python. But
Yeah,
during like expert programming, or if you really understand what it means, you can do it actually.
I see.
So that was about
Okay.
objects. So let us try to understand how to take inputs. This is a small concept, so I'll try to just I have written a small program today morning. Okay, so in C++, there is a in C there is a function called as scanf. That means it waits for something to be
Hmm.
typed on the on the screen from keyboard input. So in Python, it is as simple as just input. So if you just call input in Python 3, it's just like input and braces. So this tells the program, Python program that we do here, Python. It tells that wait for input from the keyboard. Okay, that's all. So let us try to. So what I'm trying to do is here trying to do. I'm trying to take an input from a keyboard, two inputs actually. So that is why I have used two input. So that should be stored inside to a variable to operate on that. So if you do not have anything here, it's like you take input and you don't do anything on that. Okay, so always we have to store whatever is entered on the keyboard, and put it inside a variable. Okay, so my intention is to calculate the sum. So let us try to do this. I'm trying to calculate the sum. Let us try to see what is the output. Okay.
So Digant, here input, you're actually giving one input and then pressing enter, and then
Right,
you're
right,
again
right,
giving one more input, right?
right, right.
So how does it work when we have two inputs giving, given in the same line? Let's say 10 space 20.
Yes, yes.
So
Actually,
how
you
do
can do that.
we?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll tell you different ways for that.
Sure.
I'll just demo this and
Yeah,
then.
you can run this one.
Yeah. So let us say this is my first input 232, and then something like this is my second input. Okay. So if you see here, total is actually, it's not actually the sum, it is getting concatenated. That means this is second input is just getting added or added into the next to the first input. Okay, so that is because all the inputs that we take is in format of, it will be read as strings. Okay, so in order to convert that into different formats, you need to do type conversion. Type conversion is nothing but you use that particular say int is a keyword again. So you can send any number inside into that integer and convert that to integer and then calculate total. So here I am doing in this line of code, I'm just converting that to integer, and this is the right sum. Okay. So this was
Okay.
just to tell you that it always by default takes a string. Okay. Now the question is,
Okay.
using this
Uh,
input,
um,
can this is like, this is actually very raw method to take inputs. But if you want to take multiple inputs, say I will just do again, and I'll take few numbers. Let us see what happens. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, okay. This was your question. Okay, so I'm trying to take inputs which are separated by spaces and things like this. So when I did that, so the first statement got executed without any problem, because it is, we are reading that as string. The whole thing is read as string, and then it gets concatenated. That means after this the second input gets concatenated. Okay, now I'm trying to convert that string as an integer. So when I try to convert that string as an integer, the whole string, this whole string contains spaces, so that is not a valid integer. So that is why it says that it is an invalid literal for based in, that means the numbers. So it is not able to convert this particular string into an integer. Okay, so in order to do that, one very raw way to do this is, you can actually take this string and parse that string. We can, like, we can either do a for loop and take that as input a. Okay, and if you see any spaces, ignore the spaces and take only the numbers. Okay, so that is one very raw way to do it. Or you can either take that string, and there is a function in for a string called as split. So you can say, you can just do input a dot split, and split by spaces. You can do spaces, or by default it takes spaces, and you can actually um, uh, put this returns a list of numbers. Okay, and then you can do you can put a for loop and try to do operation. Okay, so that is one way. In in uh, in actually, that is wow, that is like a very crude way. So what actually in the programs, we can say, for example, this Python itself is taking an argument as this a file name, and also there are programs which can take multiple arguments. So that is done using a library. There are different libraries such as opt parse and arg parse and things like that. So you, in industries or in a professional programs, we usually use such libraries, and those libraries automatically internally they use this input and write a wrapper around this, and it has a neat way to define even the input value, such as now everything I read it here is a string. So internally it will automatically convert a particular type into a required format. Say I have a program something like get get student data dot py. So in order to execute, I can do something like, okay, student name is because age is 34, and then I can also do as something as marks as say 80.00, something like this. Okay, so I'm passing different types of data types. If you use input, it will all the things will be read as a string. Okay. Internally, so if and also it won't this won't support argument processing. So these are all called arguments for a given program. So it is called as like positional arguments, and um, internally we can define. So okay, the first argument is a string, the second argument is a integer, the third argument is a float, and such things we can define. And also we can define say we can define something like restrictions on that. So if I don't get any float here, I can say okay, float was expected, this was given, and exit the program. So if you're using Linux command, say for example, ls is a command to list out all the files in the directory. So let us say actually dir is a command in Windows. Do not get confused by dir that is used in Python. So dir lists all the files that is here. Okay, so in case if I use dir a, okay, it is telling that okay, in system it is giving some error. Okay, so dir a there, and if I say help, it's not there. So whichever is not there, it is programmed to return some errors. Okay, so such things can be done in Python using there are libraries such as argparse and optparse and argparse. Okay, so we can use that and make it slightly complicated. So that is how the inputs are actually taken in a nice way. So this example is just to just if you just want to do something very crude or very minimal things, you can just use input. Just keep in mind that they are actually strings, and strings needs to be converted into whatever type that you want. Okay, so any questions? Did I answer that?
Yeah, yeah, I understood this one. So my question was, I mean, follow-up question on this one. So we are actually converting that, or rather casting that into I mean, integer, right?
Right,
When you're
right,
passing.
right, right.
So basically, whenever it accepts as an input, so does it accept always in the string format, or
Yes, yes, yes. This
what is it?
always takes as a string. So if you just
String.
hover
Okay.
on that string in VS Code, it will tell that so whatever you are seeing is a doc string. So it tells okay,
Mhm.
this input takes, this is a doc string that is written by the author. So it read
Mhm.
a string from standard input. That's all.
Okay.
And
So
when do I stop taking input? If I see an enter character, that means slash n in
correct.
slash n or slash r carriage return or something like that. So
Mhm.
stop taking input. Um,
Okay.
and there is something called as AOF character. So if I see that,
Then,
just uh,
okay.
come out of the waiting thing. Okay.
So in this, right, let's say if at all we are actually populating a register number for a student.
Okay.
Okay. Let's say, I mean, this is just vague idea.
Okay.
So we try to read input from a particular file, let's say an Excel file,
Okay.
which has got one column.
Right.
So first two characters of a student is being picked, and a random number is generated against it.
Okay.
right? A sequence of numbers.
Right.
So from 100, 1 or 2, like that.
Right. Right.
So first input is picking from an Excel file, which is A B C D E F G H, like that, so in sequence. So let's say first five names are being picked, and next it is five numbers are being picked, and we need to print the register number.
Okay.
Let's say ABCD 100, EFGH 101, something like that.
Okay.
So in that case, one is string and one is number, right?
Yes.
So the first, I think the line 567 will execute and show as ABCD 100 and EFGH 101.
Right.
So what happens? That's right. That's
Okay.
correct, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
coming to
Yes.
line 10,
Right. Yeah.
we don't have to do this int of input A.
Right, right, right. Yeah, that's a good question. I understood that. So there are a mixture of, for human eyes, it's an integer and it's a string separately. But for computers, now how do I differentiate between these, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The idea is you just read through all the lines, and everything is a string now, and you try to convert it into the integer. Okay. So
Mm.
whenever you try to convert that to an integer, for example, ABC is not an integer, so it throws an error, right?
Correct.
So that error must be caught. That means that we should be aware of that error, and we should write code in order to find out that if this error occurs, then this could be a string.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to write that. That I will cover in error handling and
Okay, the
exception
exception.
exception handling. Okay. So
Okay, okay.
this is how it is done. Like if you don't know what are all the data types that are coming in, it's just actually from the at the source, it's all the same. It is just string.
Correct.
Actually, even if you go one level below, that is still actually strings can be strings are now like we look at ASCII, and there is something called as Unicode, and internally they are represented in a different way. So actually, if you the string on one machine is not the string on the same string on the different machine. So these are all like called as Unicode and things like that. But Python abstracts all of these things, so we don't have to worry about this. So that is one thing. And so in case you want to find out if the red number itself is a integer or not, you just use that type and pass that argument as a into the type, and if the type is integer, you convert it to integer. But always you will
Right.
get as a string. But in case you have already converted and you want to re-verify if in another function, you find out
Mhm.
you just need to find out the type of that variable in runtime. Okay,
Okay.
that is okay.
So basically, that validation is one has to do whether it is an integer or a string
Right, right, right.
or
Yeah, we
anything
should
that
we should
comes.
we should always be knowing what kind of variations that we are getting. So that is like one of the initial exercises that we should do before developing anything. So if I'm taking an Excel sheet, say what are the various data that I might get. So it can be actually you can even get a formula inside that. So how does that
Yes.
formula is there? Actually, you can get a French character or a Japanese character or a Chinese character.
Mm.
So such things, how do we handle? So all these things we should be thinking ahead of time, and then think about how to handle all this. So we should know the variants actually.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So just like int, do we have float also for
Yes, yes, yes,
conversions?
yes, 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 yes. All the keywords um, that we use here. So you don't have to remember all the keywords. You can just search in Google saying that how do I convert to this.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
idea is we should be clear about how do we process that, and then we
Correct.
kind of search in Stack Overflow or Google, and then we try to stitch all these things together and write functions and things like that. That's all. The
Sure.
only thing that we should be clear that okay, we understand what we are doing. So that is most important, and we don't have to remember anything actually.
Yeah,
So as
yeah,
and we when we write code, more code, then some things get into our minds and it becomes by heart, such as this
yeah.
print, integer, strings, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that was about objects. So let us jump to files. Okay. So what
Uh,
are files?
Digan,
What are files on disk? They're just we can say they are just markings on the magnetic disk. Okay. So in a sense, when we try to read a magnetic disk, it is actually organized in terms of sectors and blocks, and those blocks, say for example, when we say that the hard disk is corrupted, that means I'm not able to read the sectors and the blocks inside the magnetic disk. Okay. So that is what is meant by corruption. Okay. So these files are somehow stored in such format, and operating system, when we try to format a hard disk, it asks what is the format that you need that hard disk to be formatted. Okay. It can be FAT32, EXTs, EXT, or whatever the format, NTFS. There are so many formats. That means the way that I will look at this particular block of hard disk is in a certain way. That means maybe FAT32 is doing slicing it in one format, one way, and maybe NTFS is slicing that sections in different way. Okay. So when we delete a file on hard disk, and maybe it is reutilizing it for some other things. So such things, all these things depend on the format. Okay. So that is like very brief idea about what is hard disk and how the files are stored. So, these are the files on disk. The idea to read the file is just to go to that block and sector, and then get the data and read it as ones and zeros. And then CPU will take care of displaying that onto the screen and things like that, and it will be displayed as a string or characters or however it is. Okay. So that is how the job is done, from hard disk to the RAM and to the CPU, and then back to monitor. That is how the files work. So files has beginning and ending. So ending of the file. So as we saw, input ending of an input is detected by enter key on this one. That is nothing but slash n or new line or a carriage written. Files also have an ending, so that is called as an EOF character, end of file character. So if you do not have that, so it just prints junk, and it will just keep on printing. So that is one thing. So beginning of file is also detected by a certain thing, so that will be um, an interface to start reading the file. Okay. So let us look at the program. So that was about a little bit of theory. um, Let us, I have just created this file, so some text inside that .txt file. So actually you can read any kind of file. You can read binary file, you can read the code itself, you can read anything. So it is just a block on hard disk. So when we try to read, this is how. Okay. A file is referred internally. That means when we load a file from hard disk to the RAM, there is something called as a file descriptor. So that file descriptor will point to the file, and it will return a pointer. So that is not called as file descriptor. Okay. It is like a handle to read the file. Okay. So that is nothing but file descriptor. And to get a file descriptor in Python, it's very simple. Just there is a function called as open. So it takes a file name, and there are different modes to open a file. For example, it is possible for a particular user, you don't want him to write on or write or append onto the file. So what you do is you give only read permissions. That means open the file if he is opening, then open the file in read mode. So read mode, write mode, and append mode. There are three modes, Read mode is just read, direct read, no writing operations. And write mode is you can write onto the file. So append mode is, so if there is something already existing here, so append mode is just appending onto the this file. So it starts appending here, append here. Okay. So continuation now, continuation is called as appending. Okay. So these are the three modes that are usually used. And there are more parameters for open, but we do not usually use all the parameters, because we just need to open the file. Okay. So if you want to open a text file, this is very simple. It just prints the text file because it and Python understands. Say if you want to open an Excel file, it will be opened, and inside the Excel file we cannot read anything, because the Python by default it doesn't know how to read that. Okay. So if you try to open Excel file in a notepad, for example, it prints very gibberish characters. It just prints some very crazy characters, okay, which are not readable. That is because the Excel sheet is a file which is meant to be read by Excel program that is uh, in the operating system. Okay. Yeah, this guy will read, and this guy will make tables and display it. Okay. So for such purposes, we have separate libraries such as XLRD, XLRW, things like that. And also there are if you use pandas library, there are functions which can parse this Excel sheets. Okay, so Excel sheet is not a simple text file. It is a complicated file which uses metadata, kind of metadata, and then it says, okay, which data must go and sit in which cell and what is its format and things like that. So that is not a simple file. So for such things, there are different libraries. Okay, so that is about the files, and let us try to read this file first. Okay, so I'll just comment this from Python read file. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just taking the file descriptor and for line in, just putting a loop inside that, because this file descriptor is actually it is an iterable. That means I can move to one line by line. Okay, by default the iterator is defined as like go line by line. You can also try to go character by character, or you can even read a full file in one shot. Okay, that is also possible. So that we can explore in your free time, or whenever there is a requirement, just find out, just Google and find out how things are done. And the core idea we should not forget. That means this file is actually residing on hard disk, and this is being sent to RAM, and at the RAM we have something called as file descriptor, and when we open we read that on the memory, and then those things are accessed or modified. And when we use certain functions such as write, it writes onto the hard disk. Okay, so these things are abstracted already. So so that is how we need to work out. And then let us try to do an experiment. So I have opened this file in read mode, then I'll try to write something onto that file. Okay, it is throwing an exception saying that, okay, this is unsupported operation and this is not writable. Okay, so this is exceptions are just to give heads up. Exceptions are it's a program crash. That means if there is an exception in a file, it will just stop the execute, it will halt the execution of entire program. Okay, so that is why we need to handle this exception. So and that I will cover in the next class, how to handle the exception. So in case you want to throw an error for an user who is not intended to write this file, what you can do is you can just handle this exception, and just give up a print command or print something on his screen that okay, you do not have access to write this file. Okay, so that is how that is the use of using exception handling. So uh, this is a very short lesson about files and how the files are seen from the Python's perspective. uh, so if you do not have unsupported file, what you get is actually you get some bytes, and then maybe you need to if you want to write a library by your own, then you need to know its encoding, and then you need to write its okay, this character means this one, and this is how I need to display it and things like that. So all this headache is already taken care by for all the formats. Today we have all the libraries in the world, so that is why people love Python. So there are already so much of libraries that you don't need to reinvent anything. So that is why Python is doing well in the current list of languages. Okay. So that is a brief idea about file. Any questions in this?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, great. So that was a short idea about files and how do we operate the things on that. So we will do more exercises. In a sense, once we finish the basic session, that means we are almost done. What we'll do is we will in next session. What we'll do is we will learn about exception handling, and we will learn about regular expressions, which are very important to process the data. And then we will start we will cover a couple of concepts, and in this week, that means I think tomorrow, the Python, basic Python is already done. So this is like we are done with the Python. And since we have studied about objects, we will try to create our own objects and try to make our own data types, and then we will try to play around with that, and we will do the exercises. And those exercises we will do only one exercise from coming week, and in that we will focus on one simple task, and then we will try to modify that simple task into a bigger project. It's like you have a basic requirement, and then the requirement gets added, and how do we maintain the requirements, and how do we verify that the existing system is working, and all these things we will study. And this will help to understand how the things are built, in how things are meant to be built. And also we'll write some test cases and regression tests, and generate reporting. And also we'll learn about how to make good quality code, such as we can use some tools to sniff through the code, and it will automatically tell that what could be the problems, and such things. And we can probably automate all these things, and then if you run the program, then your program becomes in terms of quality, it becomes stronger. In terms of adding new requirements, we will also test whether the existing requirements are not broken, as if features are not broken, and things like that. So that is the future. So we will learn about regular expression and few things in the next session. I think that will mark at the end of actually the basics of Python, very basics. So then we'll do a lot of hands-on. Okay, we'll work